Hey everybody, and welcome back to another deep dive with yours truly. Today we're going to be uncovering the story of a group you might not know too much about.
Yeah.
The White Panther Party. Now before you jump to any conclusions, I got to tell you right off the bat, these folks were deeply connected to the Black Panther Party.
Absolutely.
So get ready for a wild ride.
You know, you might be surprised to learn
Yeah.
that the White Panther Party was actually born out of a call to action
Really?
from one of the founders of the Black Panther Party, Huey P. Newton.
Okay, so I'm a little familiar with the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they were all about fighting for equality and empowerment, especially during the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah.
But how did a white organization fit into that picture?
Yeah. That's a great question.
It almost seems...
It seems contradictory, right?
Right, yeah.
Well, it all started with an interview where Newton was asked what white folks could do to truly support the Black liberation struggle.
Okay.
And his answer was pretty radical.
Okay, I'm listening.
He challenged white allies to form their own organizations, their own spaces to combat white supremacy head on.
Wow.
Basically saying, don't just stand next to us, dismantle the system that's hurting us from your side.
So they were being asked to confront the problem within their own communities.
Exactly.
Not just join the Black Panthers.
Yeah, and in 1968, John Sinclair, Lenny Sinclair, and Pun Plamondon took up that challenge.
Okay.
And they founded the White Panther Party in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They didn't shy away from the call.
Wow.
They embraced it wholeheartedly,
Okay.
becoming fierce advocates for social justice with a truly radical ideology.
Okay, so when we say radical, what do we mean? What made their ideology stand out?
Their ideology was a fascinating mix of influences.
Okay.
You know, think Marxism, anarchism, and the counterculture movement
Wow.
all blended together.
So they were really pushing for like
Oh,
a
yeah.
full societal...
They wanted a complete societal overhaul. They called for the abolition of capitalism, the end of U.S. imperialism, and the creation of a truly just society.
That's a lot.
It is.
Okay, so those are some really radical ideals. But what did they actually do?
Right.
Did they just talk the talk, or did they walk the one?
They definitely walk the walk.
Okay, good.
They organized protests against the Vietnam War, echoing the Black Panthers' anti-war stance.
Okay.
And just like the Black Panthers, they created community programs, providing food and resources, organizing cultural events to raise awareness about social injustices.
So, like, taking it to the streets?
Completely.
Really living that?
Yeah, they were all about action.
Did they do, like, flyers or anything?
Oh, yeah. They were all about spreading their message.
Okay.
They published underground newspapers, used media and propaganda to get their message out there.
Cool.
They wanted to reach as many people as possible, shake things up, and spark a real dialogue about social justice.
So we've got this group, the White Panthers,
Right.
answering a call to action, mirroring the Black Panthers' fight, spreading their message far and wide.
Trying to...
It's a powerful image.
Yes, very much so.
But were there any consequences
Of course.
to these actions?
There were definitely consequences.
Like what?
Well, for example, John Sinclair, one of the founders, was arrested for marijuana possession.
Marijuana possession?
Yeah.
That seems a little
I know, right?
minor compared to everything else.
It might seem that way now,
Yeah.
but back then it was a huge deal.
Oh, really?
It became a symbol of the government's attempt to silence dissent and control those who dared to challenge the status quo.
So this seemingly small arrest became a much bigger symbol of distance.
It became a rallying cry for those who felt oppressed and silenced by the system.
Wow.
This one event shows just how tense the atmosphere was back then.
Yeah.
And how even minor actions could have major consequences.
For sure. It's crazy to think about that one arrest becoming such a flashpoint, you know?
Yeah.
It really highlights the power of just these like symbols and the importance of even like these small acts of defiance.
Exactly.
But going back to the White Panthers and their relationship with the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
You mentioned it was more than just like ideological.
It was.
They actually collaborated too.
Oh, absolutely. They were united by a shared vision of revolution and a deep understanding that their struggles were interconnected. You know, they knew they couldn't dismantle oppressive systems with words alone.
Right.
They had to take concrete actions to improve people's lives.
So it was more than just talk.
Yeah, much more.
They were really putting their beliefs into action.
Exactly.
I'm curious, how did the public react to this alliance?
Yeah.
I mean, were people supportive of this radical stance?
Well.
Or did they face backlash for working alongside a group like the Black Panthers, who were often demonized by the media and the government.
It was a mixed bag,
Yeah.
as you might expect. Some folks saw them as genuine allies, committed to dismantling racism and inequality.
Right.
But others viewed them with suspicion, labeling them naive, misguided, or even dangerous radicals.
Oh, okay, so not everybody was on board.
No, not at all.
I can imagine the media had a field day with this,
Oh, absolutely.
probably painting them as this, like, threat to society.
The media often portrayed them as this fringe group,
Right.
a bunch of hippies with dangerous ideas,
Right.
and their connection to the Black Panthers,
Yeah.
who were already under intense government scrutiny, certainly didn't help their public image.
No.
It's a classic example of how the media can shape public perception and influence the narrative surrounding social movements.
It sounds like they were walking a tightrope, trying to stay true to their beliefs.
Yeah, it was a tough balancing act.
But also navigating this hostile political and social landscape.
Exactly, and that constant tension, that balancing act, played a significant role in their eventual decline.
Really?
You see, despite their passion and commitment, the White Panther Party faced some serious internal obstacles that made it difficult to sustain their movement.
We talked a little bit about their decentralized structure before. Like, how did that impact their ability to...
Well, one of their biggest challenges was their commitment to a decentralized, almost anarchistic approach. Unlike the Black Panther Party, which had a more hierarchical and disciplined organization, the White Panthers embraced a more fluid structure. They believed in empowering local chapters to act independently.
So a more grassroots, bottom-up approach.
Exactly.
While that has its advantages,
it does.
it also makes it difficult to coordinate national campaigns.
Maintain a consistent message. And manage resources effectively.
So like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
You know, they wanted to give power to the people.
But it might have made it harder to operate as a unified force.
Did this lack of, like, centralized leadership contribute to their decline?
It definitely played a role.
Okay.
You know, this lack of cohesion made them vulnerable to infiltration, internal conflicts, and ultimately fragmentation.
Wow.
It's a common challenge for many social movements. Finding the right balance between grassroots autonomy and centralized leadership is crucial for long-term success.
What about the government? Did they actively target the White Panther Party?
Oh, absolutely.
Just like they did with the Black Panthers.
The FBI, under its COINTELPRO program, saw the White Panther Party as a direct threat. Especially because of their alliance with the Black Panthers. They used a range of tactics to disrupt and discredit the group.
Like what kinds of tactics?
Well, surveillance, infiltration, even instigating violence and conflict within the party itself.
It's kind of terrifying to think about.
The lengths that the government went to. To silence dissent.
And these tactics were incredibly effective. They were designed not only to dismantle organizations, but also to break the spirits of individuals.
Wow.
Sow distrust and fear and discourage any form of resistance. Imagine the paranoia, the suspicion, the constant threat of being watched or betrayed. It took a heavy toll on the movement.
It's a dark chapter.
It is.
In American history.
It's
hard not to see the White Panther Party as incredibly brave.
You know,
taking on such a...
You were incredibly courageous.
Monumental task.
Facing down both external repression and internal challenges. It's important to remember that these activists were fighting for a better world. A more just and equitable society, despite the overwhelming odds stacked against them.
Their dedication and their unwavering commitment to social justice.
It's inspiring.
It's really inspiring. But we know their story didn't have like a happy ending. What other factors besides the government repression and the internal struggles led to their decline?
Well, we can't ignore the shifting social and political landscape of the early 1970s. The energy and momentum of the 1960s, which had fueled so many radical movements, began to wane. The Vietnam War was winding down, and with it, the anti-war movement that had galvanized so many young activists. It's almost as if the winds of change had shifted. Leaving the White Panther Party struggling to stay afloat.
So they were battling these internal and external pressures.
Right.
And then just
And then
a changing political climate on top of it all.
Exactly. It was a perfect storm,
Yeah.
a confluence of events that ultimately led to their demise.
It makes you wonder what might have been if circumstances had been different.
It does.
Despite their eventual decline.
Right.
Their story is far from insignificant.
Yeah.
In the next part, we'll explore the lasting impact of the White Panther Party, their complexities, and what their story teaches us about allyship and the fight for social justice.
I think there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, I'm eager to dive into that.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, folks, for the final part of our deep dive into the White Panther Party. All right, so we're back, and we've been talking all about the White Panther Party.
Yeah.
This group that really, bravely challenged white supremacy.
Absolutely.
And stood with the Black Panthers.
Side by side.
During, a crazy time in American history.
A turbulent period, for sure.
It's a story full of complexities,
It is.
They were so dedicated to social justice.
Right.
But also prone to disorganization.
Yeah.
And they're inspired by the Black Panthers.
Uh-huh.
But they also grappled to find their own identity.
Yeah, their own unique path.
And they aimed for revolutionary change.
They did.
But ultimately, they had a limited and short-lived impact.
That's true.
How do we make sense of all of this?
Well, I think it's crucial to acknowledge these contradictions. They reflect the inherent messiness of social movements. Change is rarely a smooth, straightforward process.
Yeah.
It's often about trial and error, passionate individuals grappling with complex issues, facing setbacks, and learning along the way.
So even though they disbanded their story, still has valuable lessons for us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
What can we take away from their experience?
Well, their legacy, though, complicated and imperfect, offers several important insights.
Okay, I like that.
Firstly, it reminds us that true allyship demands more than just good intentions.
Okay.
It requires action, self-reflection, a willingness to confront one's own privilege, and a deep understanding of how oppression works.
So it's not enough to just say, I support a cause.
No.
You have to be willing to challenge the systems that benefit you.
Even if it means discomfort.
Right.
Even if it means challenging your own community.
The White Panther Party showed us that true allyship means actively dismantling the structures that create and perpetuate inequality.
Yes.
Starting with the ones within your own sphere of influence.
Absolutely.
Their story also highlights the immense pressure that radical movements face, both from within and outside.
For sure.
Their decentralized structure.
Right.
While empowering, ultimately made them vulnerable.
Yeah, they faced constant challenges in coordinating efforts, maintaining a unified message, and effectively managing resources.
It's a lot.
It is.
And then there's the chilling reality of government repression.
Right.
Something they share with the Black Panthers.
Absolutely.
The FBI's COINTELPRO program was ruthless in its attempts to disrupt and discredit them.
It was a systematic effort to silence dissent.
It's a stark reminder of the power of surveillance misinformation.
Yeah.
And the lengths those in power will go to silence dissent.
It's a cautionary tale for sure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the White Panther Party, what's the overarching takeaway?
What can we learn from their successes?
Yeah, their failures, their unfinished story.
Well, their legacy, while complex and imperfect, offers valuable insights into the nature of allyship, the challenges of radical movements, and the ever-present threat of state repression. They remind us that the fight for social justice is an ongoing process, a relay race where each generation learns from those who came before.
We learn from their dedication, their courage.
Absolutely.
Their willingness to challenge the status quo.
Yes.
And their unwavering belief in a better future.
And we learn from their mistakes, understanding that building a more just and equitable world requires constant vigilance, strategic action, and unyielding solidarity.
Their story reminds us that change is possible.
It is.
Even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles.
Yeah, it inspires us to keep questioning, keep learning, and keep pushing for a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Absolutely. And on that note, we wrap up our deep dive into the White Panther Party. Thank you all for joining us on this journey of discovery.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep fighting for a better world.